where it began sometime in the beginning of 2009.
Yeah, at the beginning of 2009, I started renting rehearsal space. I had been trying to write the album for about 6 months before, but wasn't getting anywhere. So I rented this rehearsal space, sharing with an Irish rock and roll band, and they let me have it in the mornings, and I would go in each morning from like 10 in the morning to noon, cycle up to the place and go in and write and play and sing, and it was great. It really kick-started the writing for the album, and within a couple months everything was done and dusted.
Did you find the kind of discipline of having to go and write every day was helpful?
Yeah, I tried not to think about it that way. I mean, I was really trying not to put pressure on myself, because the whole point of coming to Berlin was just to let it happen, let the creativity happen whichever way it happens to come. And so I think the place was just had a bit of, it was in a really, it's in Marzahn, in this really kind of working class area of Berlin, and from the windows you can see the railroad tracks, and there were a lot of things in it that kind of reminded me of my hometown in West Virginia, and that ended up being reflected in the songwriting as well. But I felt really comfortable there, and probably the discipline did help, but it didn't feel like a pressure that you might feel when you've kind of set yourself a course like this, that I'm going to write every day and I must produce. Some days I didn't produce anything, and I just played other people's music just for fun, and just had a bit of private gig for myself, and then the music was really coming and the words were really coming. So. And
how did living in Berlin flavor the music you were writing?
I think it probably opened, like the thing about Berlin, it feels like is like anything goes. There's a lot of different styles and fashions and everything else here. So it probably opened myself up to thinking, allowing the music to go in whichever direction it wanted to go.
You recorded the album in Berlin as well.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I actually came to Berlin to write and record the album because Berlin has such a great reputation for being kind of a cultural capital of Europe, and it's a really inexpensive place to live and to work. So I knew that I wanted to come here and do it, but just again through friends who were here, friends that I met recommending this place and that place. And we ended up at the Funk House, which used to be the GDR's main radio station, the communist East Germany's radio station in the late 50s, early 60s, and it's a magical place. Like it's a bit haunting as well, because the hallways and the outside looks like an insane asylum. I think, no offense to the Funk House, but inside the rooms, the studios are glorious, with this beautifully handcrafted wood panels, and has an incredible sound in the studios. But it's such an interesting thing to be in these beautiful, gorgeous rooms, and then to step out of the room and walk down the hallway that looks a bit deserted, and it does look like you're in an institution or something in the hallways. It has that kind of Soviet-looking architecture to it. So I liked all that. I really fed off those two opposing pictures that were there.
Do you think that the history of Berlin affected your creative process in any way, living with this history?
Yeah, I don't know. I probably felt like being in Germany, and because my family came from Germany 3 generations ago, probably played a little bit of a part, not consciously. In fact, it was only recently I was sitting down with a German friend, and he hadn't heard any of the music at all, but I had the artwork with me for the album, and he was living in the town where my family came from, and he said, are these songs reflective of you coming back to Germany after your family left? And I said, no, I actually don't think so. And then I looked down at the name of the first track, and it's called From Whence I Came. And the first line is, I'm home again. So I hadn't consciously thought of that, but obviously there's things going on in my mind that I didn't realize.
I'm home again, from whence I came. The night is still, but the hurt remains.
You've recorded I think all of the tracks as a band, as a group. And what was your thinking behind doing that?
I think it was we wanted to get away from this idea that people make records these days by, track by track with a metronome and never really seeing the other players and trying to get every note perfect and in its right place and very scripted. And I wanted, and Fab did as well, to kind of touch the spirit of the song, try to channel that somehow. And I think the best way to do that is to play live. So not only did the drummer and the bass player and myself all play together live, but I sang live as well while I played. And we didn't use any click track at all. And you can hear that in some of the songs. And you can hear some of the mistakes. And some of the songs are ending. You can hear the drummer's stool squeaking. And I like all those type of things. I like that way of making music. And it was much more exciting and risky feeling to me when we were doing it. And we recorded with the band only 3 days, so we did 8 songs with the band. So we had 8 songs in 3 days. So there's not a lot of, and we had 1 day rehearsal. So there's not a lot of room for error. And I never played with these guys before, so we were all new to each other. So it was quite a bit scary, a bit like walking a tightrope, but really exhilarating to do something like that. And I think it worked in the end.
Maybe I could find you, you'd open up your heart. Maybe I could find